If you're watching this video, you probably watch drama channels or have seen them in your recommended videos in the past. I know my feed has been flooded with so many videos about the usual suspects, Gabby Hanna, Colleen Ballinger, and the like. You know, the problematic people that are always at the scene of the crime, whether it be grooming allegations, horrible apology videos, or just being downright messy.
For them to be tweeting right now, I'm playing the victim, I am the fucking victim.
Before we delve into the topic of YouTube gossip and the drama channel ecosystem, I thought we could take a look at how gossip has evolved throughout the decades and how we got to this point exactly. Basically, people love to talk, especially about other people. I was watching a video from the Storage channel, The Evolution of Gossip, and in the video they mention a scientist named Robin Dunbar. He's a British anthropologist, evolutionary psychologist, and specialist in primate behavior. Specifically, his theories supporting our brains increasing in size so that we could keep track of more relationships, correlating the size of a mammal's prefrontal cortex to the size of its social groups. There's also a large amount of evidence pointing to language evolving the way that it did because of gossip. It lets you know who did what, who to trust, and vice versa. It's pivotal to the formations of groups and communities. Where did the word gossip come from? Well, it was originally the Old English term godsib, or literally a relative to God. Usually a person who would act as a sponsor or witness to a person's baptism. Later, it functioned as a term for a friend or neighbor, especially for women who were present during birth, like midwives or female family members. Women would lovingly call each other gossip as a term of endearment. Later, in 1547 in England, there was a proclamation that was issued, banning women from meeting together and partaking in babbling and talking, quote-unquote, and ordered husbands to keep their wives at home. This was a serious blow to women's autonomy, effectively reducing everything women talked about with each other to idle chatter and therefore being unimportant. The truth was, and still is, intimate conversations between women were powerful. Being a girl's girl was having knowledge, and with that knowledge, even if it was only of a small community, it gave women a lot of agency, knowing which man to be wary of, or just general info of their neighbors. Later on, and throughout the 16th century, the war on women continued with witch hunts throughout Europe. If you're American, you might be familiar with the Salem witch trials. This was similar to that, but on a huge scale. Around 40 to 60,000 women were executed, out of the many that were accused. Now, make no mistake, many or most of these women being accused of witchcraft weren't actually practicing witches, and were often just women who were unfortunate enough to succumb to people's anxieties during rapidly changing and stressful times. If we jump ahead to the Industrial Revolution, the invention of the newspaper was crazy. Not only did it keep people informed of what was happening in general, but it also kept the powerful ruling class on their toes, exposing at least some level of corruption. One of the most popular examples being the famous Watergate scandal of 1972. Which led to the resignation of President Nixon and a heralding of a golden standard of investigative journalism. Also, they were really cheap, making it super accessible. The rise of newspapers also brought the invention of the yellow papers, which is basically news that has been sensationalized instead of being cut and dry. Scandals that the public were dying to know about, because at the end of the day, gossip isn't just the passing of information, it's also fun. Humans enjoy doing it. The modern equivalent to sensationalized news outlets are various tabloids, like TMZ and others of the like, talking about how Dinglebonkle has gained weight or Poopy Doopy and Doopy Poopy broke up or whatever. And then, with the invention of the internet, forums let anonymous people give their 2 cents on social media platforms. Sites like MySpace, Reddit, and 4chan. YouTube specifically is a little bit weird because even though there's a global audience because of how accessible it is, there are a lot of sub-communities within the larger YouTube umbrella of creators and those that support them or interact with them. There's usually drama within specific communities, which sometimes gets so large that it leaves those communities entirely and becomes site-wide YouTube scandals. And YouTube scandals are kind of crazy. As someone who's been watching YouTube for most of my life, one of the earlier ones that I can remember happening was like the YouTuber Sam Pepper getting canceled for his awful public ass-grabbing prank, which, for the record, was just him recording himself assaulting people. Another one that was huge but not quite the same situationally was the Fine Bros, who ran the React channel, which I think still exists. Anyways, they were getting massive backlash for trying to copyright the word React in 2015. But I think the largest one that you're also probably aware of was Dramageddon, specifically Dramageddon 2. Or Sistergeddon, as some call it, where Tati Westbrook accused James Charles of some not-so-good things regarding his treatment of younger men.
It's like, no big deal. Like, sucking dick and cock. Like, I'm just like, oh my god. Time and place. And you did it at my birthday dinner.
And then the second part of Dramageddon 2, where she revealed that Shane Dawson was behind it all, which gave us this really iconic clip.
Because you message drama channels! Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah, the whole thing was such a big mess, but I think it was also such a real turning point in YouTube where there are so many drama and commentary channels that are raking in a profit from the messiness of usually the beauty community at the time. I'm not going to sit here and crap on drama channels. That's not my intention. Talking about other people isn't a sin. Even though it might be a guilty pleasure for some, it doesn't remove the pleasure part of it. Drama channels are important to the YouTube ecosystem and really cement YouTube as a community. There are so many of them because there is a high demand for that kind of content. People want to know what's going on in the YouTube and online space, and you get to pick a drama channel that suits your taste. Maybe they have a nice voice, or they're especially funny, or you like the way they present information. If we're being honest, after a scandal happens, every single drama channel gets their 2 cents in, which is understandable. There can be multiple creators covering the same topic. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a little funny seeing someone being problematic online and seeing like 40 people make a video about it. Feels kind of like this meme. There are some interesting takes coming from different channels, but it all ends up feeling like an echo chamber. Going back to Dramageddon, there was a period of time afterwards where drama channels were way too powerful, and it definitely contributed to the rise of cancel culture. You've probably heard that phrase before, but what does it really mean? Wikipedia defines it as a cultural phenomenon where people criticize or dissociate from an individual who is thought to have acted or spoken in an unacceptable manner. The phrase actually originates from, as most internet terms have, from Black Twitter in 2015. At first, it was used in a more playful manner. For example, maybe you'd cancel your friend for being late to the function, or you'd cancel your coworker for heating up fish in the communal microwave. Later, the function was more so to end someone's career, or at least online career if it was an online cancellation. Basically remove their relevance on the internet. Most of the time, these internet cancellations don't work, and I'll tell you why. I want to bring up that scientist we talked about earlier. Yup, that guy. Robin Dunbar, who came up with something called Dunbar's number, which is basically the amount of genuine human connections any one person is capable of having, which is around 150. Let's say you lived in a small village of around or under 150 people. Gossip would be how you knew who to trust, who wasn't pulling their weight, etc. You would be met with the social consequences of your actions and be ostracized and isolated before you would have to deal with any legal action. It keeps people in line and upholds the expectations of the society. Now, compare that community to the billions of people that exist on the internet and in the YouTube space. It's on such a large scale, and the outcomes are turned up to 100. Nobody ever stays canceled because the amount of genuine connections a person is capable of having hasn't gone up in correlation with the amount of people we interact with on the daily, online and in person. So their actions don't hold as much weight as they would in a smaller space. Look at James Charles, for example. He's like a cockroach that keeps coming back, even with his head cut off. With YouTube and TikTok, the interaction is usually a one-way deal. Sure, there are comments, but it's not the same as a genuine human connection between two people. Therefore, gossip, which again I'm using interchangeably with the spreading of information, won't work the same way it does in those smaller communities in most situations because, again, connection between the viewers and the creator isn't genuine because Dunbar's number hasn't scaled with the invention of the internet and social media. Our brains literally are not capable of everyone giving everyone else the same kind of humanity and understanding and making that connection. That's why these people never fully get canceled, because the viewers don't always fully connect with them in a way that they would with someone they know in their day-to-day lives. People move on and they forget because it hasn't really impacted them. Now let's move on to the juicy stuff. It's not really the YouTube drama that I take issue with. There hasn't really been a YouTube cancellation to my knowledge where it wasn't deserved, but I do think we need to remind ourselves about the ethics of what we're doing. So I went to the Society of Professional Journalism's website and pulled up the Code of Ethics because yes, drama channels are producing a form of journalism. These are the 4 principles that they abide by. Their ethics statement, if you will. 1. Seek truth and report it. 2. Minimize harm. 3. Act independently. And 4. Be accountable and transparent. I think basically all drama channels follow the first principle pretty well. They gather and report correct information that they haven't obtained in unethical ways. They add proper context and overall do seek the truth and report it. The same goes for number 3, act independently. Drama channels usually don't make this content with an agenda from another party. The principles that often get forgotten are 2, to minimize harm, and 4, be accountable and transparent. Where I see these principles forlorn the most are on videos about lol cows. First, let's talk about Tyler, someone who has recently been getting a lot of criticism online because of his parasocial relation with Wilbur Soot, which prompted him to swoop in to defend his otter after he was accused of SA from a previous relationship. Tyler also gets a lot of criticism for his bead business, specifically the quality of his jewelry not being to par with the price point, him imitating Native American style beading. He's also claimed to be two-spirited in the past, even though he's white, which he's also getting dragged for. There's also a GoFundMe for him to move to the UK, which a lot of people speculate is to get closer to Wilbur. There was also a situation where he went to the UK and claimed that the artist Stuart Simple, the guy that made Planet of Black 2.0, offered him a job even though there wasn't a job, and then complained about it on the internet. Initially, the videos were warranted. You have someone defending an abuser, spreading false information about an artist, and then offering a service and not delivering quality product. I think channels posting 1 or even 2 videos about him was fine. but when people are making 4 or 5 videos about him, they really start to beat the dead horse. I take issue with this specifically because it feels like some of these drama channels know that a lot of the people don't really care about the actual issues. They just want an excuse to make fun of someone's appearance and feel a little better about themselves. Because let's be honest, would he really be getting as much hate as he does if he wasn't this specific archetype of person? Probably not. I think knowing when to stop is really important, because after the 3rd or 4th video, it can start to do more harm than good. And I think this is true for almost all lolcow content. I mean, look at Ash Trevino, who's way worse than Tyler. She's constantly dating prison inmates and not taking care of her daughters. I think all the content and videos about her are doing way more damage than Tyler's because she feeds on the attention. All of this publicity is fueling her lifestyle and urging her to continue her problematic behavior, not to mention her poor kids who are getting so much unwanted and unneeded publicity. The worst case as of recent has to be Timberbone. She's someone who's very mentally ill and is a convicted stalker. It's a very tragic situation, and the public is just egging her on, commenting that they're meant to be together and telling her to get her man. What I'm saying is, just because you can make content about something doesn't mean that you should. Not to say that people can't post the content that they'd like. I think censoring that content isn't the solution, but we need to be more mindful and ask ourselves, why am I making this? And what effect will this have on other people? If you do choose to make content revolving around topics that could be sensitive, the biggest thing you can do is treat it with care and caution. Don't fall into the lolcow infinite video hack. Even though a lot of this video is criticism, I want to give credit where credit is due. A newer drama/commentary YouTuber that I've watched and really enjoyed is AJ Talks A Lot. Not only does she handle topics with care, but she is also really funny and her personality really shines through. So shout out to AJ. I feel like YouTube hasn't really felt like a community in a very long time. And in order to change that, we have to not only acknowledge the problems, but also acknowledge the improvements that can be made and also lift up creators where we can. Thank you so much for watching if you got this far. This was my first ever YouTube video, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna cringe really hard when I watch it back. But I hope it gets better from here, and I hope you have a great day.